What's up, my infested little Iberus, also known as the Candy Tuft Flower? This is Rob from the Gay Guy Plays, and today, on the not-so-daily grind, we're going to be talking about the Helminth Chrysalis system and the potential Warframe abilities that are going to be contributed to it. Now, if you guys have not watched my previous video regarding TennoCon 2020 and the things that were actually hype-worthy from it, let me tell you, this is the one system, like, above and beyond that got me absolutely juiced about the new Heart of Deimos update. Now, as a quick rundown, basically what they're going to do is expand the orbiter system that we have in the back where the Helminth resides. Now, it's actually going to be this crazy, like, infested plant thing that we're going to be feeding resources into. Now, as we level that up, it's going to have its own abilities that it can implant into Warframes. However, we also have the option of subsuming one of the default Warframes, aka a non-prime version, and basically what will happen is after I believe it's about 24 hours of digestion, we'll be able to permanently gain access to a single Warframe ability that we'll be able to place on other Warframes. Now do keep in mind it is a single ability per Warframe that we'll be able to add in. Now, I'm kind of curious to see if they're actually going to go ahead and be able to do it per loadout, because one of the cool things about the new infested Chrysalis system is that we'll actually be able to select which loadout this ability is going to be on. So I think it would be super duper cool if we were able to, let's say, put one ability on one loadout, put another ability on a different loadout, and put, you know, another one on a third loadout. Basically kind of like giving us a little bit more flexibility in the way it plays, but as it stands, from what we do know, it's one additional ability per Warframe. Not additional as in like you're gonna get a bonus one, but you'll be able to replace an ability for the Warframe. So the first thing that this kind of like threw me back into was the whole Warframe babies thing that we did for a while, where we started merging different Warframes together, where we'd be able to kind of like merge their kits. So now we kind of get the same thing, of course not as powerful because we're only going to be able to contribute one ability to it, but holy cow, it's still got all the juices flowing. So today, what we're going to go ahead and do is go through the full roster, and I've actually got a little bit of a list off to the side of me of the abilities that I think are going to be potentially what we're going to end up with. DE is going to end up releasing a list, and we'll talk more about that when that actually launches, but I figured, you know, let's have a little bit of fun. Now, the guidelines that they actually put out there is it's not going to be an ultimate, and it's not going to be their signature abilities. So anything that is just like highly used on that Warframe, it's probably not going to make it in there, and we'll have a little bit more of a chat about that. So let's start things out from the top. We've got Ashe. Now, the thing about Ashe is when you think of him, you instantly think shurikens and you think Bladestorm, right? So for me, I want shuriken, and you know, in my head I'm like, oh, this is gonna be, you know, just his #1 ability, right? It's just a simple, like, it deals damage. But everybody knows that if you play Ashe, you're gonna be using Seeking Shuriken and you're gonna be stripping armor, right? So part of me really wants Shuriken, but I think that it'll most likely be something as simple as teleport. Now, of course, teleport does open enemies up to melee finishers, which kind of goes well with things like Arcane Ultimatum to get yourself a nice big boost in armor. So for me, I mean, yeah, that would technically be worth it, but would I want to go through all of the Hollow Blue? The other ability that I did think, because I'm putting it out there, Smokescreen does not necessarily have the biggest duration, or longest is what we're talking about. So a part of me is like, maybe that'll potentially be the one invisibility ability that DE will actually put into play, but I'm leaning more towards teleport. However, I would not be mad if we got ourselves shurikens. Now, the one thing that I do want to remind you, since we're starting things off, is augments are in place. DE did clearly state that we would be able to use augments for these abilities. So whatever augments come with that specific ability that the Helminth will implant, we'll be able to use it on whatever Warframe we have it on. Moving along, let's go ahead and jump into Atlas. Now, straight out of the gate, the first thing I think of is DE is not going to be that generous. we're gonna get tectonics. Basically, we'll be able to put walls up. If we want to go ahead and use the augments, we'll be able to toss 3 up, but it's really not gonna be anything that crazy. However, if DE loves us, they'll give us Petrify. Petrify would definitely be exciting to use. I believe that you are able to scan enemies with augments. Is it me, or is there one where you can like get bonus loot from them? I can't remember off the top of my head because I'm really not like that deep in Atlas. I just use them to punch things for fun. But yeah, in my head I'm like, yo, if you love us, Petrify would kind of be dope. I don't think we'll be seeing Landslide on this anytime soon, but you know, I'm still leaning towards Tectonics. Moving along, we have Banshee. Now, straight out of the gate, just like Atlas, I was like, there's one ability that is the trash tier ability that we're going to end up getting, which of course is Sonic Boom. Now, she does have the Sonic Boom, which can strip enemy armor, so that's pretty cool if we wanted to go ahead and do that. But if DE's feeling kind of generous, Silence might actually be a really interesting choice. As you guys know, there is Savage Silence augment, where it'll actually open enemies up to melee finishers, so that might be kind of sort of fun to play around with. Don't know, but at the same time, this isn't necessarily at the top of my list for Warframes that I would want to subsume. Now, one of the ones I'm super duper curious about is going to be Baruch, because really, I don't know what they're going to put in, but all of them are kind of very, very interesting. So, straight out of the gate, a lot of people are talking about the fact that Elude, it's probably going to be it. You toggle it on, and basically you get immunity from enemy attacks while you yourself are not attacking. So, a part of me is like, that's most likely going to be it. However, we do also potentially have Desolate Hands on the table. Now, for those of you guys who don't remember, it's the one that has all of the different knives, and it will disarm enemies, but as long as the knives are on you, you get damage reduction. And you know, I'm looking for things like damage reduction, because you know, that could make certain Warframes feasible for like later in the game. So, I wouldn't necessarily mind having Desolate Hands. I personally think that Lull, while I would love Lull, I think it's a little too iconic. What do you guys think? Which one do you think out of all of Baruch's abilities is going to land there? Because I really think it's a big coin flip. One that I don't think is a coin flip at all is Mr. Chroma Prime. That's going to be Spectral Scream. As much as I would love it to not be Spectral Scream, I have a very strong feeling it's going to be Spectral Scream. However, if DE is generous, they will go ahead and give us Elemental Ward. Now, the interesting thing about this is, as you guys know, Chroma's passive always ties to the energy color that they have. So I'm assuming if we have Spectral Scream or Elemental Ward, it will have to tie into the colors on our Warframe, which makes you wonder exactly if some of the passives are going to transfer over. And we'll just have to see if that actually happens. Moving on, let's take a look at Ember, because Ember is going to be one of those ones where straight out of the gate you think Fireball, right? But when we get to, oh, do I just want to spoil Frost already? Should we? Okay, I'm gonna spoil Frost. They have confirmed that his is Ice Wave, right? So while I think in my head Embers has got to be Fireball and we're just gonna be layering out Fireballs, who knows? DE might actually be a little generous and give us some Fire Blast, and Fire Blast would be a really, really cool choice because that can strip enemy armor and knock enemies back. So I'm sitting here like, I mean, maybe if Fire Blast came through, I would feel a little sexy. But that is, you know, remains to be seen. We'll judge. We'll judge and we'll see how much DE really likes us. Moving along, we have Equinox. Now, a lot of people were very curious as to how Equinox's abilities would work. And like I was saying with Chroma, it's probably just going to be based off of the energy color. As you guys know, Equinox's passive, well, one of her passives, no, I think it is the passive. It's like whatever color you start with will indicate whether you start in night form or day form. And I think that that's what's going to dictate what ability we end up getting from the whole, you know, flipped roster. There is a part of me that's thinking maybe they just give us Metamorphosis and give us the different buffs. I mean, it makes it Really simple and easy. You get X, Y, and Z buff when you switch this time. You get X, Y, and Z buff when you switch that time. And, like, I just personally think it might be cool to see us with a little bit of duality. Putting that out there, that might be a bit fun. However, you know, Pacify and Provoke is definitely on the table, especially if the passive is going to be an effect where it'll indicate what color. And I'm going to tell you right now, Peaceful Provocation is probably one of my favorite augments on Equinox. So, like, to have the damage reduction as enemies get closer and have them slow down, yo, that could be extremely juicy on someone like Chroma. Because think about it, not only are you getting damage reduction from all of these other sources, because a majority of his damage reduction comes from armor, but this is just straight up damage reduction depending on how close enemies are to you, plus you slow down enemies. So just for me, I'm like, feeling kind of sexy. Just saying. Now, moving on to Excalibur. When we talk about Excalibur, it's very simple in my head. I just think slash dash. You know, that's probably got the most mobility. It's the easiest to kind of like translate through. But we could end up seeing Radial Javelin. I mean, again, it just depends on how generous DE is feeling. Me personally, I don't feel very strongly either way as to what ability we get, because that's not necessarily going to be on the top tier of my subsume list. Now moving on to Frost, we did have it confirmed, I believe it was by DE Pablo, that they're going to do Ice Wave on him, and he can use Ice Wave impedance, like a big old slowing radius. I mean, just think, like, we don't have, at least off of the top of my head, too many frames that are really focused on the slow, and slow is such a good, it's such a good, like, effect, you know what I mean? It slows down how much enemies can fire off, it slows their movement, so there's just a lot of really, really cool things about that, so I'm kind of excited. Is he on the top of my, like, priority list? Not really, but I mean, it's still kind of nice. Moving on to Miss Gara. Okay, straight out of the gate, I'm just thinking Shattered Lash, right? Simple and easy, like, I don't think DE is going to do too much to it. Really, really pretty effect. However, I will say one of the things that I want to point out is Spectrage. Like, listen, I know everybody's out there saying, oh, please give us, you know, what is it, the shattered spinny glass thing armor around her. And, like, realistically, that's not going to happen. Like, I love you, but I don't think DE is going to give that to us. But let me tell you right now, Spectrage is actually kind of cool. It creates that kind of like glass mirror carousel, and all of the enemies go inside of it, right? So that's a nice clustering of enemies, really, really great. But she also has, what is it called? I forgot what the augment's actually called, but all of the enemies that die inside of it have a 50% chance to spawn an energy orb. So that might be a cool way to get CC and energy management on your Warframes. Just putting that out there. Next up, we have Garuda. Now, simply put, she's got two really, really strong possibilities, which of course is going to be Blood Altar and Bloodletting. Bloodletting, as you guys know, you deal damage to yourself and then you go ahead and you get some energy out of it. So that's, again, great for energy management. And then Blood Altar would be absolutely fantastic for a little bit of support. So me personally, whatever we end up getting, I think is going to be really, really cool. Now, Goss, this one's simple. Mach Rush. We're going to get Mach Rush from Goss. You just zip around, smash into things, and you know what? That could be really, really fun. I quite enjoy it with Goss, so for me, definitely, but you know, on my wish list, the things that I would like to see is maybe a little Mach Rush. Maybe that's too much to ask. I get it, maybe a Mach Rush is too much to ask for, but being able to absorb damage and convert it into energy, like, I'm kind of into that, okay? Grendel, a lot of people had questions, especially on stream, because I originally did this on stream. This was what stream day ended up looking like after they did their reveals. But with Grendel, a lot of people were curious as to what it's going to be. I was like, there's only literally one ability that it could be, and it's Regurgitate. Now, Regurgitate is where he basically shoots off a projectile from his tum-tums and it deals toxin damage. Like, everything else with his kit requires him to feast and, like, you know, consume enemies inside of him and then, like, meatball. Like, it's just Regurgitate. We're just gonna throw off that poison projectile and that's basically gonna be it. Nothing more complicated than that. Now, when we talk about complication, Harrow is probably going to be the most complicated one of the bunch, if I'm going to be completely honest with you. And that's mainly because, like, what are we going to get? We going to get Condemn, which would be absolutely fantastic because, number one, it's really, really good CC, but at the same time, it restores your shields, right? And I mean, Condemn on Hildren might be really, really nice. Not saying that Hildren can't get, you know, can't get shielding other ways, but I'm just, you know, why not just pile it on? Also, we have the ability of getting penance on a frame. So for those of you guys who don't know, you smash yourself, the duration of the penance is gonna be based off of how much shields you have, but in that time, okay, your health is shown to the world. All of the damage that you're doing is gonna be able to heal you and the rest of your team, and you get, like, I think, is it faster fire rate, and I know it's faster reload speed, something along those lines. Like, that sounds really jutzy for a Chroma, right? Combine that with Elemental Ward, Vexing Ward. I'm just saying, like, you heal yourself, you heal your teammates, you have increased output damage, you, like, remove your shielding so that you get all the health, right? So that they can deal the damage directly to your health, which means that, like, you can get the damage boost. I'm just putting things together here. And then, of course, Thurible is just absolutely fantastic when it comes to energy management for you and your team. But I think that Thurible is a little too iconic. I don't know. There's just a lot of different possibilities for Harrow. I'm really excited for what we end up getting because in one way, shape, or form, we're going to be able to find some uses for it. Now, with Hildren, I'm really curious to see how they manage this because I think that all of Hildren's kit really synergizes well together, and there's only one thing that I hate from her kit, which of course would be her Balefire Charger. That thing, I just cannot stand. But I can't see DE giving a, what is it called, an exalted weapon to anybody else, even though it is her first ability. So that would kind of bring it down into Pillage or Haven. Now, Pillage, I would be happy with Pillage because straight out of the gate, you're stealing enemy defenses and you're bringing it back to yourself, and you also have something that you can use to remove status. So it's just good all the way around, right? I'm happy. Like, you could totally picture that on someone like Mag. I mean, hell, even a Loki would do quite well with it. There's a lot of things. And then Haven, of course, is the one where you have all of the different beams that leech off of other enemies to restore your shields, and then, of course, restore ally shields. And I mean, like, support Zephyr. Okay, I'm just saying it. I'm like, listen, ain't nobody gonna be fucking with you, but you can run around, like, making sure your team is cool, right? There's just a lot. There's just a whole lot that I'm really, really happy about. So, moving on from that, we have Hydroid. Now, the thing about Hydroid is I can feel it in my bones. Tempest Barrage would be nice, right? It's his first ability. We're assuming that that's probably what we're gonna get in most kits because you get Corroding Barrage. Corroding Barrage would be nice, strip enemy armor, little bit of CC. But there's a part of me that feels like DE is gonna be funny, and they're gonna try to give us Tidal Surge. And I mean, the augment, you know, it'll give you some status immunity, but don't give us Tidal Surge, DE. Don't do that to us. Just give us Corroding Barrage, and we'll be good. I'll be happy. I'm just like, I just feel like they're gonna try to be funny about that one. Next up, we have Anaros. Now, I'm gonna tell you real quick. There are two, like, categories of frames for me. Frames that I want abilities from, and there are frames that I want to give abilities to. Anaros is one of those frames that I want to give abilities to because I hate, like, half of his kit. Just putting that out there. And speaking of his terrible kit, the two ones that they're most likely going to give us, Not Pocket Sand. Pocket Sand's too good. Yo, if they give us Pocket Sand, it's a fucking holiday. Okay? They're most likely going to give us Devour, which... no thank you. I'm just not interested. Or Sandstorm, which is almost as infuriating as Zephyr's Tornadoes, but somehow more. I just hate it. I hate its guts. Whatever it is, I don't care. I don't want any of these abilities. So let's go ahead and move on. Now we have Miss Avara. I'm going to let you know right now, I'm pretty sure that it's going to be Navigator. Like, I can't see the rest of her kit necessarily work. Like, D is just not going to hand you an invisibility, a toggleable invisibility, right? You're not going to be able to put that on just any frame. Maybe potentially because the movement speed isn't that big, but I don't see us getting Prowl, and I feel like Quiver is a little iconic, so we'll most likely end up with Navigator, which, not necessarily excited about, so... listen, it just makes me think in my head, oh, well, at least as I go through this list, these are abilities that I hate, and maybe these are abilities that I can replace with something else. Avara with, like, Shield Pillage, or something to, like, remove enemy defenses? Yo, Navigator's gone. I know you can do some fun things with Navigator, but I'm just really, like, it's not at the top of my list to keep. Miss Kahora. Now... here's the thing about Miss Kahora. The two abilities that are not her iconic abilities, because, you know, we got Strangledome and we got Venari. You know they're not giving that away. If they give away a Venari, like, yo, I'm just going to run around with 2 cats all the time. But Whipclaw is powerful. Ooh, is it powerful. And the way it will combine with certain other Warframes, and especially now on Steel Path where you can get accumulating Whipclaw, that's a yikes. That's a yikes at how powerful that is. But let's talk about Ensnare, because that shit is also powerful. Like, if you have a Warframe that you can really gain benefits from clustering enemies, I mean, even just a Warframe that's geared for melee and has enough range to cleave through multiple enemies at once, just that Ensnare, ooh, that's dirty. It feels too good. Regardless, I'm really excited. I probably need to go farm up a second Kahora, because legitimately, that's gonna be nice. Moving on to Limbo. A lot of people are talking about Limbo and like, what are they gonna give us? What are they gonna do? Here's the thing. I feel like they're going to put certain passives into play, but with Limbo, I don't know if they're going to give us the ability to go in and out of the void. That's just a lot of fuckery. But it's really simple. Like, they're just going to give us Banish. It's just that simple. And most likely, because you can see we're going through a long list of different abilities. D got way too many abilities to deal with. They're just going to give you Banish and say, fucking deal with it. You don't want it? Don't put it on your Warframe. Now, if they do give you the ability to, like, you know, go in and out of the void while you roll or whatever, or dodge or whatnot, fantastic. But literally at the end of the day, a part of me is just like, have fun. Now, Loki. Good old Loki. Again, he's one of those Warframes that, like, there's a couple abilities that I'd like to drop, and there's a couple abilities, you know, that are just iconic to him. Like, you're not going to get his invisibility, but you know you might end up getting Decoy, which is... no thanks. There is Switch Teleport too, which, like, if you're a troll, it can be really fun. However, Safeguard Switch, for those of you guys who have never used that ability before, I use that in a lot of rescue missions, and that just makes rescues a breeze. Basically, what it is you make your target invulnerable when you Safeguard Switch them out. So you can actually just go Safeguard Switch your rescue target and fucking book it. So that way, if there are any mistakes or anything happens, they're just basically invincible the entire time. And I actually used to use that in survivals with like a partner. So they would know that I was going to Switch Teleport them. So anytime that I saw their health, like their health bar come to life, I would just Switch Teleport them and just run a lot of duration on it. So for me, I mean, that might be something that some brewers out there, people who want to play around with some builds, might actually want to try out. Moving on with that, we have Mag. Now, it has been confirmed that Mag's Pull is going to be it. A lot of people are really excited for Greedy Pull Necros, which, I'm going to be honest with you, Like, y'all have the option of using vacuum. It's really not that serious. I mean, a Necros build is already tight as it is, and you tell me you gonna make room for gritty pull. I mean, you know, you do you. Whatever you want to, you know, get your life. Moving on, we have Miss Mesa. Now, straight out of the gate, I'm thinking ballistic battery. Like, DE doesn't like us that much to give us shooting gallery. Now, don't get me wrong. Shooting gallery for me is definitely on the table. Shatter shield, I think, is completely off the table. But shooting gallery would be nice because you do get that damage buff, and then you get the CC, and then you get a little group support too. You know, it's kind of nice. You know, if DE wants to, like, you know, push us to do some group play, maybe shooting gallery. However, I'm thinking we're probably going to end up with ballistic battery more than anything. Moving on, we have Mirage Prime. Well, Mirage, not necessarily Mirage Prime. No, here's the thing. This one's a little bit questionable, too, because you damn well know they're not going to give us Hollow Mirrors. It's just too iconic, and she has, like, a custom animation for that. I don't know if they're going to end up rigging that for other people. But really, what it leaves us with is two really powerful abilities. We have Sleight of Hand, and for those of you guys who don't know, you can use, oh my god, it's a really, really cool name. Oh, it's the one that makes things explode. Explosive Legerdemain. That one is really, really cool. A lot of people use it, and I'm sure there are a lot of builds that are fairly compatible with it, like really high range, high power strength builds that can make a lot of use with that. But Eclipse is also really fucking powerful too. So a part of me is like, Mirage is going to be a good one to get like an ability off of. Like, I don't know. I think it's going to be fantastic once all of that goes live. So y'all might want to get another copy of her. I'm just saying. Next up, we have a Necros. Now, it's going to be Soul Punch. Like, DE doesn't like us enough to give us anything but Soul Punch. However, you know, if they want to prove me wrong, Terrify wouldn't necessarily be bad. I'm just putting that out there. Because if I remember correctly, doesn't Terrify also have a, doesn't it also have an armor debuff? Yeah, it does have an armor reduction component to it. But you could also put Creeping Terrify on, and Creeping Terrify slows enemies around you at the same time. So depending on how much you want to, like, give into your build, that might be kind of cool to have. Next up, we have Nizaha. Now, we've already got this one confirmed as well. It is going to be Firewalker. I don't know if you're excited about it, but maybe you haven't heard about an augment called Pyroclastic Flow. This is going to be insane for certain Warframes that are really good at clustering enemies, because basically what ends up happening is it accumulates 150% of the damage and it stores it up, right? Then you can recast Pyroclastic Flow, and you do this cool kick animation. You like kick your foot, almost like you're trying to kick off a sneaker, but instead you leave this trail of fire that unleashes per second. I think it's per second, or is it per tick? It's per something, but it's pretty often all of the damage that was stored up during its duration. And I think it's times 1.5. So it's kind of sickening. You could get like 12k tick damages on that. And so we're saying it, Ember, Armor Strip, low Pyroclastic Flow, you just dealing lots of damage there. This is a lot. It's a lot, and I really, really like it. So I'm excited for that. Moving on. Oh my god, I didn't put Nidus on my list. It's okay. We'll just do it on the fly. So Nidus, like straight out of the gate, the first thing that I can think of is probably either Spawn? What is it called? Larva. This is why I need to write things down. Larva, which you can grab a whole bunch of enemies together. I think that would be really, really useful as CC, but we might also end up getting Virulence. Now, the thing is, a lot of people are saying, oh, it can't be Virulence. It does feel like that is a super iconic ability of his because you're spamming that all the time, but you have the option of either a nice CC of being able to gather enemies together, or something where you stomp and you could get energy back from it. I'm just saying there are options here. Now, Parasitic Link is interesting because it does run off of charges. so you would actually have to use a mutation stack in order to activate it. Now, the damage redux off of Parasitic Links is crazy, so I don't think that they're going to end up giving that to us. I mean, that would be nice, but at the same time, they would have to make it just cost energy instead, which is definitely an option, but I ain't dreaming that big. You know what I mean? I don't think DE likes us that much to do that for us. Moving along, we have Miss Nova. Now, I think it's pretty simple. We're going to get Wormhole. I think it's going to be Wormhole. However, there is a potentiality that it could be Null Star, which would be very nice because that's a damage redux ability. For each one of the little floating orbs, I believe it's like 5% damage reduction. So for any Warframes that are running high duration builds, like you could get a lot of those on and you could just kind of like keep them close to you, or you could go ahead and use the Augment where you can explode them outwards and then recast them and get more orbs back. So just like if you need some damage reduction and they give us Null Star, I wouldn't be opposed. Next up we have Nyx. Now here's the thing about Nyx that I find to be really, really interesting. When it comes down to her kit, I feel like you're not going to get Chaos. It's too iconic. We're not going to get her ultimate, clearly. So that leaves us with either Mind Control or Psychic Bolts. I feel like Mind Control is very much her theme. So I don't know if you would consider that iconic, but really that's probably what I would end up leading to, is a little bit of Mind Control. However, what I will say is, you know, if DE likes us, maybe they give us Psychic Bolts, because, you know, we want to strip enemy defenses, and my Loki really just wants to come through and be able to confuse enemies, disarm enemies, and like, listen, I just want the whole gamut, okay? Put that out there. But I really would love me some Psychic Bolts. But Mind Control is most likely what we're going to end up getting. Now, moving along, we have Oberon. Oberon is one of those ones where I find it to be a little bit strange, because I think we're probably going to end up getting Smite. It's just simple. It's just a simple ability. You know, we got... I don't want to spoil any of the other ones, but, you know, we got, like, Mag's Pull. So it'll probably end up being Smite, but I could definitely see them, if they want to do something weird, do a little bit of Hallowed Ground, which, either way, I really don't think that I would want to fuck with any one of them. So let's just go ahead and jump to Octavia. Now, Octavia, this one's going to be simple. It's got to be Resonator. They're not going to give us Metronome, because Metronome, of course, requires us to use her little beat thing. But at the same time, like, Mallet is powerful. Like, we don't talk about Octavia for Mallet. We say nothing. So it's probably going to be Resonator, and you'll have a little ball following you around, charming enemies. It's actually kind of useful. So a part of me isn't mad about it. I just don't know whose kit I would necessarily want to put that in. Moving on, we have Miss Protia. Now, this is going to be a very, very interesting one, mainly because of the fact that we have the option of Grenade Fan. Most likely going to be it. You know, a good CC ability. And in fact, it deals a shit ton of damage, like, just laying around. Just litter that across the whole battlefield. That would be kind of cool to have. But I do want to say that a lot of people are saying it's potentially Blaze Artillery, but I want to say it's kind of iconic, because where our waist belt going to be? Is it just going to come out of thin air? Who knows? But also, I'm crossing my fingers for Dispensary. Like, Dispensary would be nice to have. Like, it's a great support ability. I definitely know that, listen, if Trinity's coming out here with all of her little dumb things, I'm going to toss down her Dispensary instead of her Well of Life. Much more helpful. Moving along, we have Revenant. Now, Revenant is curious, because a part of me is like, could they give us Enthrall? Would they give us Enthrall? I don't think that they would give us Enthrall. It's just too iconic. Mesmer Skin would be fantastic to have, but that's just a little too powerful. So what does that leave us with? Reeve. And I think it's most likely going to end up being Reeve, and I don't think I would want to put it on anything, to be honest with you. Moving along, we have Rhino. This is another one where I'm like, it's going to be Rhino Charge. Simply put, that's what we're going to end up getting. But if DE is feeling generous and they love us, I mean, maybe a little Roar. A Roar would be nice as well. Now, for Saren, they have confirmed that it's going to be Molt. So me, I'm not super excited about it. I know there's some people out there that are probably going to play around with regenerative malt. You know, live your best life. Not necessarily me though. Moving on, we have Miss Tatiana. Now, for her, the only one that I could really see them using that is not crazy OP would be Spellbind. And you know what? It's a nice AoE status removal and AoE CC. So a part of me is not so mad about that. Plus she has an augment for it where if you hit multiple enemies, you can actually get energy back from that. So I'm not mad, but you know, Lantern would be nice. Just putting that out there. That would actually really make me sit and think about what I would want to put on Loki. Because Lantern is powerful, but Armor Shred is also powerful. Like, well, what am I going to do here? Either way, what do you call this? I think it's going to be decent. Moving on to Trinity, though. Let's talk about Trinity. I already said it. Yo, Trinity needs a rework. We need to rework Trinity again because Well of Life just needs to go. It's terrible, but you know that's what we're going to end up getting. They're not generous enough to give us Link. And they're not going to give us Eevee because that's definitely her iconic ability. So part of me is like, oh fuck, we're going to end up with Well of Life and we just going to QQ. Moving along, we've got Valkyrie now. Straight out of the gate, I'm also thinking Ripline. DE loves her little movement things. And like, oh, you can Spider-Man all around. People are going to have fun with that. And I'm already rolling my eyes. But, you know, it could be Paralysis. I don't think they're giving us Warcry. Yo, they're not going to give us Warcry. They're not that loving. They don't care about our lives that much. You know what I mean? They're not coming home to cook us dinner. They're like, you're on your own. Have fun with Ripline. But also maybe Paralysis. And there's Prolonged Paralysis, that one augment which can actually suck enemies into you. It's kind of fun. That was one of my favorite alternate builds for her. Now, moving along, let's go ahead and take a look at Vauban. You damn well know it's going to be Tesla Nervos. Then, you know what, Tesla Nervos is actually not that bad. The augment actually really makes it pretty sickening as well. So for me, Tesla Nervos, fine. It's not anything that I'm going to rush out and use. But I do feel like we're going to end up getting, there's a potentiality for Photon Strike. And that's mainly because of the fact that it has a very limited range. So part of me isn't necessarily mad about that. But, you know, in my heart of hearts, I don't think we're going to end up getting Mind Layer. That's just, there's a lot going on there. And we're definitely not going to get Bastille or Vortex or whatever it is these days. So moving along, we have Volt. And he is confirmed to have Shock. We saw it on the stream. It's Shock. Moving along, we have Wisp. This one is really interesting because... So, I don't think that we're going to end up getting the little vases. I forget what they're called. Reservoir. We're not going to get Reservoir. So, that's going to end up leaving us with either Will-O-Wisp or Breach Surge. Will-O-Wisp is not bad. But a part of me is also like, yo, but her name Wisp. So, maybe that's off the table. But with Will-O-Wisp, that's invisibility, right? You send that out there and you're invisible the entire time you've got your little decoy flying around. So part of me is like, I don't know, invisibility, mobility, kind of good. I'm just saying. But also Breach Surge. Like, Breach Surge can be a great CC, really hold enemies in place, and you get bonus damage off of that. So, I don't know. But I would be happy with either one of those two. Now, moving on with Wukong, y'all know you ain't getting Celestial Twin. And y'all know you ain't getting Defy. Like, it's a cold day in hell that DE loves us enough to give us Defy. Defy would be fucking awesome. That would be fantastic. I would love that. Even Celestial Twin would be awesome. So what does that leave us with? Cloudwalker. Now, you know what? There are going to be some people that are damn happy as hell to have Cloudwalker, and I cannot blame them whatsoever. After its movement speed increase, fan-freaking-tastic. Again, when you come down from it, I do believe that it still opens enemies up to melee finishers. It's been a while. I've been playing a lot of other Warframes, but if it does, Arcane Ultimatum, again, like, that's going to end up getting you even more armor. So a part of me is like, can't be mad. And I do believe that you get health back. Don't you regenerate health, or is that just for your twin? Whatever. And then last but kind of sort of least is Zephyr. You ain't getting Turbulence. And Tailwind is like one of her flight abilities. So you get an air burst. Have fun with that. But this is why I kind of like going through the entire roster, because what ends up happening is you can see the Warframes that you're like, yo, I would really like to alter X, Y, and Z. You know what I mean? I would really like, this Warframe needs different abilities. Like, listen, I'm this close from putting Cloudwalker on Zephyr just so that the bitch can fly. Let the bitch fly, please. If you're not going to give it to her, I will give it to her via Cloudwalker, okay? And it kind of makes you rethink certain frames. You're like, okay, if we just tweak them a little bit, it's fantastic. And then there are other frames that I like look at and I'm like, there's no way that I can fit another ability into their kit without messing them up. But frames like Zephyr, I'm like, we could play around with your shit. So let me know what you guys think about this list down in the comments below. Are there any combinations that you are super duper excited of? Are there any things that kind of like sparked your brain juices? I don't think that's a great term, but that's what we're going with. That made you really want to rethink and potentially rebuild certain Warframes. It's definitely gotten me excited. Let me know all your feelings down in the comments below. And as always, love somebody, hurt nobody, and wash your goddamn hands. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye. And really, you don't need to be a bitch. Just wear the damn mask. It's a lot easier than complaining about it. Just put it over your mouth, so that way we don't have to hear your complaining.